Our world is facing the largest phenomenon of forcibly displaced people in recorded history, with numbers that far exceed those who were displaced before and during World War II. In our world today, over 70.8 million people have fled their homes due to war and violence, persecution, climate change, and natural disasters, and continue to be displaced at the rate of 1 person every 2 seconds. These numbers are staggering, and it's easy for us as humans to hear them and feel completely overwhelmed, or to feel nothing at all. It's easy to begin prioritizing people by the labels we give them: migrant, immigrant, refugee, asylum seeker, internally displaced person, as though the labels we use give us permission to decide that one person is more worthy of care and compassion over another, or that the labels tell the whole story. But for me and for Tanner, when we hear these numbers or these labels, we recall names and faces of hundreds of people we've met, people who've experienced pain and suffering beyond our comprehension. And the numbers and the labels become secondary to the love and compassion that compels us to do the work that we do. I'd like to share the story of one of these amazing people with you today. This is Noor. Noor is the Arabic word for light, and indeed, Noor has brought so much light into my life. Noor was born in a beautiful little town in Syria to loving parents, and the first 2.5 years of her life were peaceful. Then the war began. Noor's parents fled their home with Noor in their arms to another community in Syria. Then another community, then another community as the war continued to grow. Noor became an internally displaced person, still living in her country of birth, but unable to stay and thrive in her own hometown. A year later, Noor and her family crossed the border from Syria to Lebanon, where they registered with the United Nations as refugees. For several years, Noor lived in a garage. Yes, a garage, where she had limited access to food, clean water, medical care, and education. I met Noor for the first time in December 2016, when her family arrived safely and securely as guests of a refugee resettlement program I worked with in Italy. This is a photo from the day we met at the airport. I remember trying to communicate with Noor and her panic-stricken mother after Noor locked herself in one of the stalls of the bathroom in the airport. It's real trauma. I also remember the hug that Noor gave me after she was finally freed. I remember sitting with Noor and her family in the airport, coloring pictures, playing foosball, blowing bubbles, and sharing Kinder chocolate as we waited for our flight from Rome to Sicily. Noor was first introduced to me as refugee, but I knew she was much, much more than that. And as our relationship grew, I got to know Noor better in so many aspects of her life. As daughter, sister, student, and aspiring doctor. To me and my family personally, she became neighbor, classmate, and friend. Yet the most important label that comes to mind when I think of Noor is made in the image of God. Image bearer. Even now, as I look at this picture, I see the image of God in the face of Noor so clearly. Do you see it too? I wish I could end this story now with, and she lived happily ever after in Italy. But that's not the case. After 18 months in Italy, it was decided that Noor's family might have a better chance at longer-term stability in Germany. I remember the day that we took Noor and her family in the taxi to the airport, the front of my shirt drenched with the tears of Noor and her siblings as we said, "Arrivederci." Life hasn't been easy for Noor and her family in Germany. When they arrived, they registered as asylum seekers and were placed in a reception center, then moved to another reception center a few months later. Noor and her siblings missed several months of school in the process and are now in the process of learning their fourth language. Over a year after they arrived in Germany, they received their first official document of stay, which was good for 3 months. They received another 3-month document in December of 2019. 3 months. That doesn't feel very stable to me. Noor's parents sent me this photo of their family not too long ago. At first, I was filled with joy and relief, seeing this beautiful family together and safe. Then, as I searched for Noor in the picture, my heart sunk. Noor is off to the side, out of focus. We only see half of her, as the other half is hidden from the lens of the camera. Where is the light? The sparkle in her eyes and that smile that could light up a room are gone. And when I saw Noor in this photo, I wept. Noor, the light. In her short life, she's borne the weight of so many labels put upon her shoulders: internally displaced person, refugee, asylum seeker. And when we focus on these labels for Noor and for the 70.8 million forcibly displaced people like her, we too create an image of them just like this photo. Placed to the side, out of focus, telling only part of the story. I look at this photo often to remind me we still have so much work to do.